for the purpose of board reorganization. And then it also says review protocol. Oh, I'm sorry. I will do I turn the time over to you, Renee, to review the protocol? Is that what the?
Yeah, you can
First-
either do it or have Doug or I
I
do
don't
it. It's up
have
to
it.
me. They're in here.
Third page, I think.
Yes.
You can do it.
Okay,
Or
I'm
somebody
fine
else
with
can
that.
do it. I don't want to do it.
Okay, so we'll start with the board reorganization. Right now, we're just reviewing the protocol for it. So when we get to action, Deanna, then you will conduct the elections.
Okay.
But right now, the protocol, and this protocol that I've included is for elections that include board chair, because typically we do chair on down. But where Angie resigned, she left just the vice chair seat that changed. So we'll do everything from vice chair on down. So when you do the election, Deanna, will go that you discuss the criteria: interest in serving, experience on the board, holding a previous office on the board, availability, and then we'll just leave out that willingness to be the spokesperson, because that's really the only one that doesn't apply to any of the positions today. And then, so then you'll just call for nominations, and we'll
Okay,
start with
so
vice
vice-
chair, and then we'll go down to
So those
clerk, whichever.
criteria, are they listed in here?
Yes.
We had
And-
a request
Oh,
that we
there they
have
are.
a discussion.
Right.
You know, so we want to make sure we don't skip over that discussion
Right,
part.
exactly.
So I guess I will call for, are there any nominations
Mm-hmm.
for, and we'll accept all the nominations before we move on, is that right?
Yeah, so I would just call for
Okay.
nominations and then just say, are there any more nominations? And then after that, any discussion, and then we can talk
Okay.
about the nominations.
Okay, are there any nominations?
Oh, we'll get there. I think right now we'll go through, it's okay. We'll go through the protocol and then we'll go through, because this first section of the agenda is to review the protocol, review the current board meeting schedule, and then review the volunteer positions
Oh, okay.
for committees. So we'll just take a look at all of those, and then once you guys have looked at them, talked about it, and you're ready to go to the action section, then we'll convene the special meeting for action.
Okay, okay. So, so in going through the calendar, are we just kind of, do we want to go through that as an overview?
Yeah.
We normally have work sessions the second Tuesday of every month at 3:30. And we normally have our regular board meetings the third Tuesday of every month at 5:30. We normally have student discipline hearings the second and fourth Wednesdays, and that depends on if we have any discipline hearings to hear. Sometimes we don't have a hearing if there are nobody.
That's not always true, is it? It's not always the second, fourth. Isn't it just every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, so I guess.
Right, where
Yeah,
it
so
Well, I guess
allows.
the month I'm looking at.
Well, sometimes there might be
Sometimes the
a-
holidays
I
mess
guess
it up, so we.
January, February, September, like most of them are, it looks like April is messed up because March of
Right.
spring break.
Yep.
Because of spring break. So I
Well,
guess
sometimes we have 5
normally-
weeks in a month, so.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. So normally it's the second and fourth. Everywhere it's the second and fourth, except for,
Right,
of course, we don't have Thanksgiving, spring break and Christmas, and then in April, it's different. It's the
Yeah.
first and third. But generally speaking, I guess that's what it would be.
yep.
So
So then let's move on. If that, I guess it would be the
questions?
discussion, does the time and dates work for everybody still?
Oh, yeah.
So-
Times and dates for the meetings. Megan, you're the one that would need to, I guess, weigh in on that because we've already weighed in on it, and these are the times that worked for everybody else. 3:30 is the time for the student discipline hearings, and that would be on the Wednesdays.
Okay.
And also, that's for the work session, right, 3:30?
Work session is 3:30 on the Tuesdays.
Right,
Right.
but
The
3:30
second
there
Tuesday.
is for both discipline and work session.
Correct.
Right.
And then the board meeting is at 5 to 7.
5:30.
5:30 to
Yep.
7 usually.
To 10 p.m.
Oh, dear,
No,
bite your
don't say
tongue.
7 because then everybody's mad.
Bite your
30 till
tongue.
we're done.
7:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, everything, ever since January, it's been an hour and a half, except for the last one.
Okay. Yes.
how does that sound to you?
Are you okay
Okay.
with all those dates and times? And we have flexibility, you know, if something changes, we have to, legally, like the regular board meetings, we have to make sure that the public is well aware,
Annually.
well in
Yeah,
advance.
yeah, so it's an annual posting, so that we put this up every year in January. And we usually stick to that schedule. If we're going to revise any of these dates, we need a 5-day notice instead of just the normal 24 to 48 hours, so.
So the regular board meetings, I think we really probably don't want to move those
Right.
over. But as far as work sessions, that has some flexibility. You know, if we need to move a work session, right?
Correct.
It's a little bit more.
I would probably feel more comfortable doing the work session at 4, but I don't know if that like really throws everybody off.
I am fine with 4. It's an hour and a half later. What is every?
Just
what-
That's only
Yes,
half an hour.
Oh, a half
Yes.
hour later.
Oh, and half an hour. So I was
Yeah.
thinking
It was
3:30.
3:30
Why do I
versus
keep
4.
thinking?
They've
3:30?
been 4 o'clock in the past. It's just really
Yeah.
just up.
Yeah,
to
I don't have a
preference.
problem with that.
Yeah, noon,
So
1:30.
Is-
Those have
is
shifted quite a
everybody-
few
Do we
times.
need a motion for this, or
We
is this
will.
just an agreement?
If we decide to change the times, it will
Okay.
be, I wrote it up either to affirm the calendar as is
Okay.
or to adopt an amended calendar.
Okay.
So it's,
So, as far as the work session, is there anything besides the work session that you would want to weigh in on or change?
does the student discipline at 3:30 work for you on Wednesdays? Or was
I mean,
that
ideally 4 would probably work better,
just in general?
yeah, just for kid care purposes, but
Well, and is that okay for, everybody else involved
My
with the 4
problem
o'clock?
is Tuesdays is usually when I have to get up to either Idaho Falls
Right.
or I have symphony rehearsals. And so I'll just have to leave early.
Oh, and so that's why we made it earlier on the Tuesday work session? And what about the Wednesday discipline hearings? Is it the
Wednesdays are
same?
usually okay, but yeah, but it's
So-
because Tuesdays are when we've done.
So Megan, what do you
Well-
think about moving the discipline hearings to the 4 and then
And
keeping
leave the other
possibly
one?
the work
Yes.
session at the
Yes.
3:30? Is that?
would that
yeah,
be okay?
that be
that
kind of a
probably
big
weighs out easier
compromise?
because that work is only,
That's only one work
So,
session a
yeah.
month, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
so that would work great.
Thank you.
okay.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
So we retain the regular hours, except we're moving the discipline to 4
Discipline
instead of
to 4.
3:30. Okay.
Does that usually work for the families? I mean, I would imagine it probably
It works better
them.
for the family.
Yeah, better for everybody, better for
Because it's less in
you.
the middle of the workday.
Right.
Mhm.
Will last half an hour.
But then will that mean
Oh, I don't know. No, it'll
if
work for me.
there's lots of them? I mean, that's
Tim,
the other
you're
thing that's
flexible.
happened is we
Pretty
usually
much.
started
Yes.
earlier if we have many
lot.
more. But I guess we'll have the flexibility.
That is
when
flexible.
we've now
We
got
do
5
notice that
members.
if we change the time, we'll notice that one further in advance and just let families know we're starting a little bit earlier than our regular schedule.
Just have
And then we
to
only have to have 4 board members to start, so
Okay. Present.
it's not
Right.
everybody.
Well,
but I
to
think
start and
everybody
3 to
being able work
continue.
is important.
Is there a motion to
Do we
approve
wanna-
the calendar?
Do we want
as-
to talk about volunteer committees first? and
Oh,
then
I
move on
just
to
thought we
action?
did motions like as we went down.
Oh,
Are we
I just
not-
had it separated, but if you
Oh,
want to do
no,
them as we
I-
go, I'm fine with
I
that too.
I don't have an opinion. Just tell me what to do.
Do whatever
Um,
you like.
I think if we get through this, because the board committees, they won't require any action, so when we're done with this one, then we'll just go to elections, and then at the end of that, we'll go to calendar, if that
Okay.
works.
Perfect.
So in the packet, I've got the current standing board committees.
But
And I just
they're
put-
not correct.
Oh, they aren't?
No, if you look at who's assigned, so it's been Deanna and I at SIP. It's been Deanna and I at Highland High School.
Well, I'm not on the SIP this year.
Oh,
Oh, are you not on SIP this year? Oh, then forgive me. I thought,
No,
But
but
at
you're
least
right,
the
you know what,
Highland
the
rebuild is
Highland
not
and, the Highland rebuild, it was a copy and paste error, so you're
okay,
correct. That
okay.
is
So I was
Deanna
just
and
like, boy,
Heather.
Raymond, you are on.
Yeah,
every
sorry.
committee."
Am I really?
And he was the only
Yeah.
one on the Highland
Yeah,
rebuild.
and that's why I was like, and that's why I just,
Okay.
because I know we had been on SIP, we just, yeah. Really?
Okay, but that
You
is,
came to.
I'm not in the Highland Committee.
no,
Right,
I
that's
said
what-
that one was an
Oh.
error right there. Everything
okay.
else,
That's
though,
why I'm
should be
saying, I didn't
correct.
know if these are all correct. I wasn't sure.
Uh-huh.
But let's see here.
You know,
When
there's two
we-
SIP
yeah, when we
committees.
Okay,
adopt-
I'm on
Well-
curriculum, I'm on curriculum,
Yes.
Yep.
and I am on a PV Tech,
Yes,
and I'm on textbook, yes,
Yes.
that's correct, but I'm not on Highland High School.
Right,
All
and I
right.
will say on the textbook, being that Megan is a teacher, I think that if we wanted to put it on an agenda in the future to change it to 2 board members, there are 2 board members on every other committee, and so we can technically have 2. We don't want to ever have 3. but we can have two. So I'm just putting that out there, if we wanted to put that on the agenda to change it to two.
I think that
We
we
can
have
put
had two in the past.
I think it's a good idea.
And I think
We
it was
have
just,
had two
yeah.
in the past.
I think
And
it's a
I think
great
it was
idea.
just this time, just a matter of interest. I don't know that we got
Should we
a,
go ahead and,
we
go
ca-
ahead and have that open to be two if we wanted?
yeah, that one can be two. That one is fine to be.
Let's do
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so, okay.
And that was the same thing with the calendar committee. You can have two on that committee as well. There
Oh,
just hasn't been interest.
Where's the
So,
calendar?
Calendar
It's
Oh, that's the very top one.
yeah, the
Okay.
top calendar committee.
Oh,
I don't, all I see is zone one.
Yes, because that was
That's
Angie.
where
That was it.
Angie was.
Oh, okay.
the-
Oh,
Angie's Campos. Okay.
okay,
So then
okay.
the
Oh,
outdoor athletic facilities committee to someone else, or does Jim?
where's that at?
I don't have
Right.
room for more, so.
Right,
between
so I guess,
Highland
Megan, that
and
would be
SIP,
up to you to
that's-
kind of
Oh.
just say what you're interested
Okay.
in and.
I got to circle zone
Yeah, are
one
you
because
interested
those are the
in-
vacancies.
In, any of these committees?
I'm definitely interested in calendar
Okay.
and textbook.
Okay.
What does as needed mean, I guess?
They schedule meetings as needed, so they're not
So,
on a set day of a month every,
Yeah, according to
so
state
just-
law, that's the one that legal committee, it's made up according to the law. And so, and it is just when there's an adoption.
Okay.
Oh, as needed, I see here, okay.
And the calendar committee is probably 1 to 2 meetings,
Yeah.
usually in February.
I think that we've done them December and
Oh, I was gonna say, we
January.
bumped it up even.
Yeah,
November, December.
even, yeah, sometimes a little bit earlier even,
Yeah,
so.
because we may ask the board to approve that even January.
Didn't
Right.
we, decide on like the last day of school? Was that in January? That calendar, was that in January that we approved that?
I think it was this last year.
Okay.
Yes, and we did an amended because we did it, the adoption already. And then we just amended the calendar. So you
Oh,
can do an amended calendar as well too, so.
Okay.
Okay, so if I volunteer for the calendar and the textbook, am I leaving Jim alone in the outdoor facilities? Is that gonna be an issue?
No.
I don't think we're gonna meet very much, so I will go ahead and do that, because I think we're not meeting very much out. I think that's really coming to a close.
It is.
So I'll
We've
go
got
ahead
All the
and,
goals and objectives for that.
okay, I will go ahead and put my name on that if nobody else wants that, and then, that way,
Okay,
okay.
all right, I guess we are ready to move on to action then?
Okay, so.
So
we're-
let me just review here, make sure I got it
Uh-huh.
right. So you're saying Highland High School is finishing up, and you're going
No,
to?
not Highland.
No, well, that is also kind
Yeah.
of finishing up too, but the outdoor facility planning committee,
Uh-huh,
they had specific goals, and
Uh-huh.
that was like 5 years ago that they started that, and they have specific goals, and they have almost met all those goals, so that will end, and that will be just kind of, that will go into the SIP committee,
Mhm.
so you say you're gonna do that for facilities?
the remainder.
You're join with Jim on that?
Yeah.
Capital.
I
Okay.
wouldn't think that
And-
there are any-
And so we're gonna keep everything the way it is, except we're going to add Megan to the textbook?
Adoption
And calendar.
and the calendar.
Oh, great, wonderful, okay, good. And there's one person on the calendar.
Mhm.
Unless
There
they're
can
more
be two.
interested, there can be two.
Okay,
I mean, I'll put myself on there, but, yeah,
okay, great, wonderful, thank you.
I mean, just since nobody answers. Okay.
I'm still,
Did you just?
figuring out that I wasn't on the Highland High School rebuilding.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
You
I'm
got,
not- I'm not
you gotta
sure, I'm
catch up.
You're slacking.
So Deanna, did you say that you would add yourself to the calendar committee as well? So there's
Sure.
two, or, okay,
So that there are two on
okay,
everyone.
calendar, okay, got it.
Okay, so, the action, let's see.
Next step is the elections.
So do I have to convene a special meeting for action?
Yep, and it's just easy, I hereby convene.
I hereby convene a special meeting for action to elect board officers, which would be the vice chair, assistant clerk, and assistant treasurer. Is there a motion to, is there
Nominations.
a motion to nominate a vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Heather Clark as vice chair.
Any
Are there
other-
any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Jim for vice chair.
Any other nominations? Okay, so we will now,
do the discussion.
Oh, any discussion? Any discussion?
So do have a discussion item, and I know it perhaps is not on the docket here, but I think, this week, Deanna, you shared with me that you had not intended or wanted to be board chair, and that we've had a number of opportunities where you've expressed frustration with the role, having your name on things, and I guess I would like to hear.
I better clarify that statement.
Let me finish, please.
Yeah, sure.
So what I would like to hear, since we didn't have this opportunity, is what your interest is in participating in being board chair, and are you willing to take the role as it should be done moving forward?
So, let's see, there are about 3 things. So the first thing is, I didn't ask to be board chair. I was the only person that didn't ask someone to nominate me, so that's what exactly was said, was that I didn't ask to be nominated. That was the first thing, is that I didn't ask to be nominated. The second thing is my name on things. I am happy to have my name on everything that I am aware of, and that I was a part of, or that and if it's not something that was maybe something that I brought forward, if somebody else wants to have their name on it and say, maybe Ray and Jim wanted to bring something forward, that's actually legal too, to have two board members get together and say, we would like to put this on the agenda. I would just like to have their name on that, to say, okay, Ray and Jim would like to present this. Now, is that okay, Renee? I mean, is that legal, and is that fine?
It's legal and fine. It would just need to be an agreement between the board. Like, you guys have to be
Okay.
in agreement with that process.
Yes, because the reason for that is that we had a gender policy, a flag policy, and then 2 other things that were a little bit more minor that were on the agenda that weren't actually that were not me, and they had nothing to do with me. And it was requested by other people, but the problem is it was a misunderstanding. The PEA, all these letters came in thinking that it was my policy. I just want to make sure that all of it is very clear. I'm happy, I don't care who puts anything on the agenda, as long as it's very clear, this is a suggestion from this person, or these 2 people want this. It's always 2 people now anyway, and so if it's the vice chair and the chair, I think it should be written on there, the vice chair and chair would like to present, or whatever, and if it's 2 other people, that's perfectly legal too. And then you just put your name on it. If it's superintendent, if it's AJ, if it's any of the directors, that's usually on there because it says presented by. But I just want it to be very clear.
Yeah, that makes
This is a
sense.
policy recommended by, so that all of the emails can be directed to the suggestions. Of course, it's directed to the whole board because
Right.
the whole board makes the decision. But I just want to be clear
Whose proposal?
who
it is.
proposed it. Just very, I don't know, to me, it just seems really basic.
Does that work for the rest of you? I think the
It
only
does.
thing that we could do is maybe just bring that board meeting policy back with the revision that proposals, names of
Other than the
presenters
board
will be
chair.
named as, the proposal.
Yeah.
On the
Because
proposal.
I think that's where that confusion came from, is my understanding is that everything had to go through the board chair and had to be approved by the board chair and be able to put on.
I think
And
everybody
so
thought
it's-
that.
Right, and so I think having that clarity, if there were 2 other board members, I mean, I don't understand, it seems to me that if 2 board members come forward with an issue and want it on the agenda, they should be identified as to who brought that forward.
Exactly,
Okay,
So
and
that
that's
there's full
really all.
disclosure, transparency,
Yep.
that
I
that
think
helps
that's fair.
avoid
Yeah,
I
everything.
I agree.
really would appreciate that.
Okay.
Because there's still confusion about the flag and the gender policy. That just isn't what I brought forward. I'm not saying my opinion about it. I'm just saying that if I didn't bring it forward, I don't want it to be assumed that it was me that brought it forward.
So I guess the reason why I brought this up is because I don't believe when we did do the original elections, you had the opportunity to express your desire or your intentions as a board chair, and if that was something that you wanted to do. I think that had to be.
Yes, I am happy to be the board
Okay.
chair, and I am
And I
happy,
think that needs to
especially,
be-
especially at this time with the Highland rebuild. I went to Highland, and my kids go to Highland, and nobody else in the board has really that same connection and that same interest. And so that is the part that I think is kind of appropriate for this timing, I'm happy to be the spokesperson for the board during this time because this is kind of what's going on right now, and it affects me a lot, and I'm happy to do that.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think you didn't have that opportunity to do so.
Yeah,
One
well,
of the
thank you.
things, though, that I do want to request is that there has been, especially after last night, there have been some concerns that you are stepping outside of your role as board chair in that realm. And that you
Okay,
are,
be specific.
being specific is the committee adjourned last night, and I don't know how late you stayed having a one-on-one conversation with the architect. And that has created a lot of contention amongst the committee. They think, I had someone ask me, who is the committee chair? And I said, no, it is Jonathan. Jonathan leads that, Renee was not there to
Oh,
take
yeah,
minutes.
that doesn't actually have anything to do
Renee
with board business, that's a committee. But it's fine to bring it up, and yes, I will explain. So if you noticed, everybody had a chance to explain, what are your priorities, what are your things that you would like, except for me, because we ran out of time.
Well,
So,
but why- but
and
to
I
do
had
that-
actually written up some things that I wanted him to look at, and he said, I'm just explaining, and then you can share that with everyone who's angry.
architect
I
is as
had,
well, by the way.
He hadn't gotten a chance to look at my suggestions. You know how everybody can email anytime? He's got his email there, everybody can email any suggestions, any updates. And so I had previously, like days, not a week ago or something, I had emailed something to him and he said, I didn't get a chance to look at that, but will you show it to me now? And I said, sure. And I showed it to him because it was actually, he told me that he would bring it forward as part of the meeting, but he didn't because he didn't get a chance to look at it. He was in Texas. And so he said, since I didn't get a chance to look at it, I'm sorry that it wasn't able to be integrated into this to be able to present, but will you explain it to me now? And then I'll do my best to integrate it like everybody else's suggestions into our next meeting to be, so that everybody else had a chance to say what they wanted. And just to be clear, the board, we could look at the policy for the committee, and I think unreasonable contention is pretty unnecessary. But the committee's the committee's intent is not to make decisions, because Jim especially wanted to be a part of, and I'm sure Ray too, but Jim especially voiced that if we make this committee, will the board still be involved in this? Because we don't want to form a committee without a goal and a purpose and a timeline. We don't, that's just what our policy is on committees that we adopted. It was an ISBA model policy. And so the ISBA model policy says that you want to have the reasons, the makeup of it, you want to have all the goals right there. And we have been very clear about the goals of that committee, and that is, it goes first to the committee, all of this input. Then, and we can pull that up if you want, I don't know if Renee, if you can or not, but the first step, well, there's actually a first couple
Actually,
of
I'm going to
steps.
stop you because
Then-
I don't think that's what the purpose of this meeting is.
Well, I want to finish.
Well,
I wanna finish.
You got to catch it up then.
There's been a misunderstanding about that, so I think it's better just to clear the air right now. So the committee, it's supposed to go to the committee, all these ideas and all these suggestions, and then the architect takes it and he tries to integrate everything in there. And the protocol is, then it comes to the board. The board looks it over, are we in our budget? And then we can ask administration, is this safe? Is this a safe plan? Is, from the administrative point of view, we have administrators here that can weigh in and make sure that it kind of meets the budget requirements, which came up in our meeting last night, which wasn't really supposed to, part of that purview of that committee isn't budget. And it just sort of came up because there's a misunderstanding that the plans are supposed to come to the board, and then we ask, are we in budget, and everything. And then if the plans are approved, in other words, if they are in our budget. Then it goes to the committee so that the committee never has to worry about, can we even afford this? Because it would have already had that step of going to the board. Are we in budget? Is this appropriate? Is this an appropriate plan to be able to present to the committee? Or do we need to scale something back? Or Jim didn't get an opportunity to be on the committee. If Jim had any additional ideas, suggestions, or he wanted to weigh in, on it, that's his only opportunity to be able to weigh in. So
Are you aware
that
that
was,
most people
wait, just one
don't get a
second.
chance to weigh in because you don't let them, like right now?
Okay, so if you,
So
we're
what
changing topics, so let me finish.
Well,
with the-
because you've
No, no,
changed
no,
the
no.
topic from the very
The
beginning.
first step is the committee, the second step is coming to the board, and then it goes back to the committee. And that's what we had agreed to as a board because of, Jim's concerns, of the budget concerns. And that hasn't actually been followed because we've been going to the architecture to the committee, from the architecture to the committee without
I think that if
the
we'd like
board.
to continue this one, that we can schedule a special meeting to really just go through all of this process and the
Yeah.
committee's intent.
Okay. And what about,
We're really
The other
outside the lines
that
of,
she brought up? What about the other things?
that those
Is
are
that-
all
is
things that
more
can be
something
discussed.
that should be discussed between the two of us?
The reason and the
Or in a
reason I
public-
brought
wait,
it up,
wait, or
the
in a
reason
public
I'm
board
bringing it up
meeting.
in a public way is because I also then want to segue into why I would like to be co-chair. And the reason why is that I believe that there needs to be some checks and balances on our board in how things are being handled, how things are being done in the district office. I think we put our district administrators in an awkward position when members of the board spend inordinate amounts of time coming in. Now, I will discount Ray and now Megan, who will need to spend some time learning and catching up to speed. But when I hear that members of, and I'll say you specifically, when I hear that you are spending 3 to 4 hours a week in people's offices, my concern is that the best use of our professionals' time, or even your time?
Oh, actually, that
So-
isn't true.
Well,
The only concern I have with that is
That
that
isn't
the officers are outlined in Idaho code, and they don't have a co-chair. That's kind of the vice chair's role. But with that process, in
So
Idaho
does
code,
this have
chair,
anything to
vice
do with
chair,
election of
assistant clerk.
officers?
so meaning that.
This does,
I
yes.
think what I'm saying is that we need to be better governing ourselves and and I'm completely open to similar correction if needed in a professional, non-confrontational way. I am trying to bring to you some issues that I'm hearing that we need to be better at. We need to
I
be
think
more
that would be
professional.
a good topic to have an ISBA board training on.
Well, and if we
just
do that, I
about
know we
board
have had
management,
trainings in the
self-governance,
past that
we can do
let's
that.
put
gloss
on-
over some of these things, and I don't think it's being adhered to. And so I
Okay.
would like to have maybe some more
Governance,
pointed
governance.
conversations on proper board procedures, roles and responsibilities, allowing Doug and his administrators to do their job without, that's not our role. We are not micromanagers.
Okay.
We should be governors.
Okay, and I guess as I would, on the conversation of a vice chair, I would like to see a vice chair that isn't leveling accusations that are not true, because I don't spend 2 to 3 hours.
Then I'll second
and I
Jim's
haven't.
nomination. I'll second Jim's nomination, because
Oh,
neither
I'll
Ray,
second
neither
Ray's.
Ray nor Megan are eligible.
I'll second Ray's nomination.
That's already been seconded.
Okay, so, everybody's eligible to, this was really unfortunate, I'm sorry, Megan.
It is.
So,
It has been for a while.
So now what do you mean by Megan and Ray are not eligible to vote?
No, not to vote, to be
No, not to
chair,
vice
vice
chair.
chair.
Oh, okay, so yeah, all in favor of, Heather.
Jim, yeah, no, so then
Jim
you're,
has been seconded.
Jim.
I don't think we
oh,
need-
oh,
Yeah,
oh,
we-
is there-
nobody's
I'm
been
sorry,
seconded.
Let me say, is there a second for Heather? Is there a second for Jim?
Didn't Heather
Okay, so
second
Heather
herself?
seconded for herself, so
Yes.
that's the second.
Oh,
So
oh,
Jim
it is a
mo-
second.
Did the nomination,
Oh,
she
I
seconded,
apologize.
And then-
Is there a second for Ray?
and which you just did.
I just,
You're allowed to second.
and now
Okay,
we've
so now we
had
need a
our
vote.
discussion,
I'm confused.
Okay,
Oh,
I didn't know.
good, I'm not the only one.
okay, Renee, will you
We've
clear it
kinda
up for
jumped
us,
through a lot
please?
of topics.
Nomination.
With nominations, you don't have to have a second, but
Oh.
it's not against anything. If you second it, then you just call for the vote.
Okay.
There's been a nomination, but you can also have a nomination, have your discussion, and then just vote. So we have a second on both, so we can vote on the first nomination, and then we can vote on the second nomination. If
Okay,
that's-
so the nominations we have are Heather and Jim.
Yes,
Heather and Jim.
And then are we going to have a discussion?
which we just did.
Yes, let's finish the discussion.
Okay.
So would you like to say why, or just discuss whatever?
Jim, how do you feel about the nomination?
Yeah,
that's my
I'd like to hear that.
Well, that's why I nominated Heather.
I don't have the votes.
Huh?
I don't have the
Well,
votes.
would you like to say what you feel like?
Are you willing to serve?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm on the board.
Well, no, I mean as
Sir.
vice
What are
chair.
the duties of the
And
board?
I
Yes,
served
but
as,
you could say you don't want it, and then there wouldn't be any choice. I just feel like there needs to be, I would like to continue to be present when agendas are being written. I think there needs to be, well, I guess, yeah.
well, I know that, okay, I know I haven't been very available for probably the last 6 months. I mean, my time's flexible, and I can about choose my time where I gotta go and do whatever, but I've been way busy on things, and probably the next 2 months that might change a little bit. But, and I've had my opportunity to serve on the board, and, I mean, as the board chair. And personally, I think Heather will do a better job than I would, as a vice chair. But, I mean, if I got voted, I would do my best, but that doesn't mean I would do as good as she does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add?
Well, I guess, I've been sensing a lot of tension between a couple of members on the board, and I would like to see a reduction of that, a little more
Fine.
congeniality, and so I think perhaps a way to diminish those tensions might be if Jim serves. That's why I nominated Jim.
And I appreciate Jim's experience and just kind of, he has a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience and wisdom that I feel like is also very important.
Yeah, no, he has more experience than anyone on the board, and he served as chair, and so that's why I nominated him.
Ms. Clark, there's still an opportunity for further discussion if you'd like.
I too, great respect for Jim. I am not someone who's contentious intentionally, but there have been challenges that I don't think anyone has been willing to speak up. And I think my presence as co-chair can help balance the imbalance that we've had. And you have not been present. It is not intended to be a contentious thing, but it is intended to bring some governance that has been lacking. And if it makes me appear contentious, it is more because I'm trying to bring decorum. I'm trying to bring back respect. I want to be sure that how we as a board are presented to our administration, to our community, to our teachers, and to one another is one of productivity as opposed to the scattershot that we've been experiencing. And that is my reason for asking for your vote to be chair. Not to say Jim doesn't bring experience and knowledge. He's not being asked to leave the board. He's still being involved. But I do feel, from what I've heard, that we're a little bit off the rails right now. And that's why I'm asking for your support. I've now been on this board for 2.5 years, however it's, and I think, you know, Deanna and I have we bump heads a little bit personally, just because of our different personalities, our different way of dealing with people. I like to listen. I don't necessarily like to talk as much. And I think that's something that, with professionalism and respect, she and I can help each other, so that we can recognize where, you know, and I don't know that she will allow me to, but that's what I'm asking for, is that opportunity for us to work better and more professionally, both for within ourselves and as well as how we present ourselves to the community. Because I think people are watching. And it's not going unnoticed. It's not going unnoticed. And I'm hearing that a lot. And I would like to get us back to a place where we can focus on the important things, not personnel issues, not confrontation, not hearing ourselves talk, but focusing on the issues, allowing our professionals to do their job, allowing them, and that's what I'm asking for, is the opportunity to help balance that.
Well, I think both of you have the best of intentions, and I think you both want the same thing. But I think perhaps maybe a little cooling off period would help. And Jim has a lot of experience, and I'm sure you trust Jim.
Oh, of course, of course.
And I think that might be a neutral way to move forward. I think tensions are kind of high at the moment, and I think that maybe having Jim as vice chair would help us kind of resolve those things.
And I guess I do want to address the things that have caused the tension and the things that I have spoken out about. There were 4 things that were put on the agenda that ended up, we got a whole bunch of letters from the PEA, 2 of the policies, but it was directed toward me because they thought that I was the one that put it on there. So I did say, I don't want that anymore. I don't want things that are assumed that it was from me. If it says somebody else's name, totally fine with that. I just want to make sure that communication doesn't ever get misunderstood. So that was the one point of contention. The second point of contention was, well, actually, there's been a lot. The first time, there's been like so many accusations toward me that I can't even number them. But the second thing, I just want to be clear, I don't think I've had a meeting in anybody's office that I can remember for a month and a half. So let's just set that accusation straight. 2 to 3 hours, no. So, you know, when Highland did burn, I had a couple of long meetings with Jonathan because I was concerned about the cafeteria space. I was concerned about the lunch lady situation. I was concerned about the weight room situation. I was concerned about how are the kids going to be able to get to these classes and things, and you know, as far as like how do I understand what the insurance covers, what it doesn't, because I was having a lot of questions posed to me from my zone, like what are you doing? What are you doing? What's being done? And I didn't know. I didn't know what, you know, the details. And so, yeah, I had a couple of long meetings with Jonathan. I do not think I've had any meetings with anybody else besides Jonathan that I can think of in the past 6 months, 7 or more, I'm not sure. But yes, I had some long meetings about Highland because I represent Zone 5, I represent the whole district, and I care equally about all the kids, but there were some real problems. And I was very concerned about that. So yes, I had questions for Jonathan. Also, before January, I was assistant clerk, so I usually would go in and say, can you explain these things on the budget? You know, but they were like 10, 15-minute meetings because they're really easy to explain. It's just, I didn't understand, this is a really big amount, what was this? And you tell me, boom, okay, I got it. So oversight, I think, is a good thing, is what our job is. And I don't have a contentious relationship with anybody that I know of. Certainly not Jonathan, and that's who I have been been in the past meeting with. So, so the first, and then the other point of contention was when the gender policy was put on the agenda, instead of coming to me and saying, where did that come from? You're the board chair, where did that come from? It wasn't done. It was in a sort of a public way, accusing me of doing this, and which I didn't do. And then there's just been a lot of accusations of things that aren't exactly 100% true. So, I mean, I would never want to say this in a board meeting, but I have to defend myself in that I can't just allow something to be said that isn't true. I mean, the 2 to 3 hour meetings, I mean, it's just simply not true. And staying after with the architect, there was no ulterior motives or anything, but Travis didn't get really a chance, and then the three of us at the end didn't really get a chance, and Travis mentioned some safety concerns, and I said, you should probably really say something, but he didn't really get a chance, and so I wanted to be sure that he was aware of a safety concern, in regards to the plan. But as far as visiting with the architect, all of us have access to him via email. And if anybody wants to, if anybody wants to offer any suggestions, they're equally,
I think that's the
considered.
difference. I think that's the difference, is there becomes a limit on what and the extent of what is enough.
I haven't actually
It-
sent him any emails other than one. So what do you mean the
Well,
extent?
I think the
I've
comment
sent
was
him
made
one.
is that we have a very expensive professional, and we should allow them to do their job. I mean,
get that.
I sat in a
People say
meeting.
that about teachers, which you also say.
You know,
And
I
I
sat
believe
in, I
that's the
sat in
same
a
way.
meeting with you and Doug, and I'm sure Renee was in the room, and it was about Highland. And it became, you sat there, I want. And I remember walking out of there thinking, as a board member, it just felt that this was your agenda. And maybe that has a negative connotation, it's not meant to be, but I guess what I'm asking, Deanna, is that I'm asking just for some self-reflection. I'm asking for you to just step back a little bit and picture how it comes across when you dominate a meeting, as you kind of had here. You've kind of really gone off onto very specifics, which is entirely your right to do. You feel like you need to defend, and I'm completely owning any part.
I didn't start it.
Let me finish, okay? Because this is the issue. Things build up to the point where no one can talk, no one can, and I want you to hear what I'm saying, not just talk at me, not just respond and defend, but I want you to hear. I am trying to help our board become productive, professional. I'm including myself in that. This is not something I'm proud of right now. It's on public display.
It'll be in the paper.
I guess I fail to see the humor in this. It's an embarrassment.
There's no humor, trust me.
This is an embarrassment. I have to bring this to you. And I know Doug had asked, but I think the whole board needs to be present because you don't listen.
So, I
So,
know that,
We can, I think it's,
I've heard in
call
the
for a
past.
Okay,
that-
yeah,
I-
I didn't
I
know
have
if
nothing more
Mrs.
to
Furness
say.
had any questions. You
Nothing
looked
more
like
to
you
say.
may have had one or started to speak one, and I don't know if you,
Well, I didn't, but I can share.
oh, okay, as long, whatever
My
you'd like to
part
do.
discussion.
I just thought you had a question about the process or Jim's willingness to serve or something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Jim has been here a long time. He's voicing that he's willing to do it, but he's not necessarily wanting to do it. And I feel like if someone has a passion to do it, then they're gonna work harder. And I feel like you brought that up already, that you would try to your best, but that's not your desire to serve in that spot. And that's been my biggest takeaway from
Oh,
this.
okay, all right. All right, so I think you have 2 nominations. I don't
Well,
know
I
if you
am not
called
done.
for a vote. Oh, okay.
So, I am happy to work with Heather, but I do know, I have noticed that I've found this in the past, that, instead of coming to someone to work out an issue, it's just sort of like going to other people. And a lot of times there's a misunderstanding or a false accusation, and then if you then go to other people without
And that's why I'm
correcting
coming
that
to you today.
in public. And
Yes.
so if there is an accusation, there was a couple that you said today that weren't true. If there is anything, it's probably best to be, clarify between the two of us. And if we then can't, then I guess we can bring it up in a public board meeting. I think it's inappropriate. I love the idea that Renee said about having ISBA training. I love that. We've got some misunderstandings about open meeting policy. We've got some misunderstandings about a few things we could clarify. I am here because I want to serve. I didn't come here because I wanted to be attacked.
None of us did.
And so, I am solid in my willingness to serve, and I will serve just the way that I said that I would. And so,
But are you teachable? I mean, I'm
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
asking that in an honest,
I was just wondering
I
if it's.
actually am, and I'm actually very willing to work with you, Heather. I would prefer not having you go and level accusations that aren't true about me, rather just come to me and clarify. I think that's a probably more appropriate way.
it's not the I mean, we have moved.
No, there's been a lot of accusations that you've said, and in regards to the election of a new board officer, there were some accusations that,
So
I have no
need you to
idea.
focus on what we're talking about. My question is if you are willing to understand the role of a board chair, the role of a board in general, where we should, if we start it's called mission creep, but I don't know. I mean, are we creeping into areas that we don't belong? And is that something that you are willing to take? And whether it be me, whether it be ISBA, whether it be Doug, Renee, are you willing to accept that there might need to be some changes on how we function today?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I am
That is all
always,
that's all I needed,
Okay,
a
thank
yes
you.
or no answer.
thank you. I am always
Yes,
open
request
to
a vote.
suggestions.
Can I request a
always.
vote?
Please.
Thank you. Yes, is there a vote? All in favor of Heather?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
I think if things would be calmer, maybe if Jim came
Can
in.
I vote for myself?
Yes.
Oh,
Aye.
yes. All in favor of Jim?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know there's an opposed vote. I mean, is there?
Right.
Okay,
I was going
so
to say,
the
actually,
first
the first
motion
motion passed, so.
First one passed, okay.
Okay, so Heather is our new vice chair. I'm happy, very happy to work with Heather. So
As am I,
is,
to work
if
with you,
there is
not just to
no
work with you.
other.
You need 2 more officers, Madam Chair.
Oh,
Yep, assistant
okay.
clerk.
I was thinking that was the
Because-
only empty,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so are there any nominations for assistant
Clerk.
assistant clerk?
Well, I believe Ray has.
No, I'm
you've
assistant
given-
treasurer.
No, right, that's what I was gonna say, and so.
I'm happy to
given that,
continue serving there,
I
but-
would nominate Megan for assistant clerk.
Any other nominations?
Clerk has nothing to do.
I would nominate Ray for
Oh,
the
yeah.
assistant clerk.
Aren't you the treasurer now?
I'm the
Yeah,
treasurer.
Treasurer now.
Yes.
We
Oh.
do have to
I
vote on that
meant-
one again.
I thought we said treasurer.
No, it was
No, no.
clerk.
It was
Oh,
clerk
I'm so
first.
sorry.
I will second the
Sure, I
nomination
will-
of Megan for assistant clerk.
Certainly. All in favor?
Aye.
Or
Aye.
any
But yeah,
discussion? I'm
I would do
sorry.
discussion first.
Any discussion? Are you willing to do it?
I would love to do
Okay.
that.
Great.
And
All in
and perhaps,
favor?
I don't know if, Renee, if you could explain, I mean, I was put in as assistant clerk and I had no idea what that was. So I don't know if Megan has questions on what an assistant clerk's role is, because I can't tell you.
Truly, the role of the assistant clerk is to back up the board clerk. So anything that I'm responsible for basically is if, you know, and this varies from board to board as well. The clerk's duties are outlined in Idaho code, mainly taking minutes is like the top priority. So some places have it to where the assistant clerk takes minutes if they're not there, but we do in our reorganization, assign a backup clerk, which we have,
I met her.
Tara and Cheryl out front are the backup clerks. So you really don't, but it more is if you want to be more involved, it would be in those types of roles.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a nomination for assistant treasurer?
I nominate Ray.
I second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If there is no other further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Did we do the calendar?
Okay, so
We did
I
calendar.
will-
We didn't.
So, no, we need to there is the one change, to change the student discipline hearings to
Okay.
4 o'clock. So
So-
we will, when we call for the motion, it will be to adopt an amended school board schedule.
So I will call the meeting back to order for the purpose of finishing board business. Is there a motion to accept the calendar with the change of the student discipline hearings being at 4 o'clock instead of 3:30?
Yeah, I make the motion that we amend the calendar, keep it the same, except move the student discipline meeting time to 4 PM.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Nope.
Aye.
Get a second?
Except wasn't there, do we
Did
need
we-
to put in there that in case there are more than,
No, those
No.
ones we wouldn't post on the calendar, on the
Okay.
annual notice, but I didn't catch if we had a
I
second.
second
Did you?
that.
Okay, thank you.
sorry,
Okay.
stopped on you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So we also have the textbook adoption committee.
Oh, that one's not a notice for action. Those are just volunteers positions.
Okay,
So we
and
will-
I guess we probably would need to change that in the policy a bit.
It's
Put
not,
that on the agenda.
it was never, textbook adoption was never for just one person. It was just there weren't enough volunteers. The only one that we had in the past was the Education Foundation, that we would only allow one person to be on. And then we did find out in the nonprofit bylaws that actual LEA boards can't be part of that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
That was
that's
it.
good to know.
Yeah, now I
Is
think.
there any
Yeah.
is there any further business? Okay, seeing there's no further business, I declare this meeting adjourned.